we're going to talk about reconciling differences. And as we discussed yesterday morning, there were people who walked in here and this is where they wanted to start. And that's the way it always is, because reconciling differences or dealing with conflict, that's very much something we want to get tools for. All right, I'm on page 6 in chapter 5. Conflict is a state of antagonism, heightened competition, or struggle. It often erupts when people take different positions on an issue and hold fast to their positions. Reconciling the different positions generally requires going below the surface. All right, 3 concepts that I want us to kind of master here. The first one is issue. That's the topic. That's the point or matter of discussion. Position. That is your stance on the issue. Interest. That's your underlying need or concern. We have to get people off of their position and get to their interest. That's where we can resolve problems. If people stay positional, we're stuck. All right, let's use some special ed examples. The issue is placement. The position of the parent coming into this meeting is, I want my child placed in a private residential school. Interest? I need help. I need respite. I don't know what to do anymore. I'm scared. I'm at my wit's end. I need help. All right. If we stay positional, or if the parent stays positional, and all they will talk about is private residential, and we don't get to the interest, why? All right, if we're in an IEP meeting and we surface the interest of why, I need help, I need respite, I just don't know how to cope anymore. Is private residential the only option? Heck no. There are a lot of things that we need to discuss. Private residential may be where we need to go sometime eventually, but we need to do this in a continuum. And we need to look at the least restrictive environment. That's where we have to get to. We have to get to interest. Share a story with you that is Florida-based. 2 neighbors, Mr. Smith and Mr. Jones. Longtime neighbors, lifelong friends. Their backyards join, and there's a fence down the property line. On Mr. Smith's side of the yard, there's a large orange tree. Branches hang over Mr. Jones, over the fence over Mr. Jones' yard. They share oranges. Life is good until there's a drought. There's 1 orange on the tree, and of course you know where it is. It's on a branch over the fence over Mr. Jones' side of over his yard. Well, these are old friends. They get into this fun bantering about, well, I'll be so happy when my orange is ready, and and Mr. Jones says, and Mr. Smith says, that's my tree. Mr. Jones says, well, let's see whose yard it comes down in. They're having fun. It's nothing serious. So they just decide when the orange is ripe, let's just resolve this. So they pick the orange, they cut it in half. Mr. Smith takes his half of the orange, goes into the kitchen, goes over to the sink, gets a spoon, and digs down in there, gets that first bite, and he goes, my goodness, this is the sweetest, juiciest orange that's ever come off that tree. Man, I wish I had the other half. Mr. Jones takes his half, he goes into the kitchen, walks over to the sink, gets a spoon, digs down in there, whoosh, right down the garbage disposal. Yeah, he's a baker. He took the rind, he ground it up. He made an orange cake, orange icing. Cool. He sat down with a cup of coffee and a fork, and he took the first bite of that orange cake. He said, my goodness, this is the best cake I've ever made. God, I wish I had the other half of that orange. They both stayed positional. If they had only shared their interest, both men would have had 100% of what they wanted instead of half of what they wanted. We've got to get from our position to our interest. I know all of you have or have had contracts with your employer that lists your job, and then there's this clause, and other assigned responsibilities. All right. In a previous life, one of my other assigned responsibilities was to be the board representative to all of the negotiations with the labor unions. Fortunately, I didn't have to do a lot of the heavy lifting. There were other people, but I had to be the board's rep. We had been negotiating with the custodians union for months. It was going nowhere. Their position was a 13% raise for the first year, and I think it was a 6% raise for the 2 following years. Yeah, it's nice, but it ain't gonna happen. The money wasn't there. The books had been shared. But at any rate, they were very positional. It was 10 o'clock in the morning on the day that they were going to walk. They were going to go on strike at midnight. So I was at that meeting. And we got started, and it was the same stuff. And after about 10 minutes, I asked for a recess, and lo and behold, they agreed. And I walked over to their chief negotiator. His name was Peter. I said, Peter, could we get a cup of coffee? And he agreed. I was shocked. I thought he would tell me what to do with that coffee, but he said yes. I wanted to get him out of the building, so we walked across the street to a restaurant. We got coffee, we sat down. I'll never forget. I said, Peter, we can't let this happen. This is just, we can't let it happen. Give us 13%, it won't happen. Peter, think about the content. Cut me off, give us 13%, and it won't happen. I shouldn't have done, well, I'm glad I did it now, but I did it at the time. I said, Peter, read my lips. You will not get 13%. He hit the table. Coffee went everywhere. And I'm watching all the other people at the restaurant. They're heading for the door. They thought we were about to get into it. And he went off on me. Oh, he called me ugly things. But I heard in there, as he's going through on this tirade, all we want is a little respect. I almost fell out of my chair. We've been negotiating for months and months and months, and all we could hear was the position. We could not get to interest. And in this moment of anger, I'm thinking, I believe I saw an opening. There's a crack in the door. Their interest is respect. As he cooled down, no, he didn't cool down. I was still thinking. But finally, he stopped for a breath. And I said, Peter, you're exactly right. You are exactly right. We must show respect and honor your bargaining unit. You know, we publish a paper in this district. It goes out to thousands of people every month. What if we gave you a page? What if we featured the custodian of the month? Let's talk about your bargaining unit and what the great job they're doing. And I almost again fell out of my chair when he said, I like that. But I had a couple of other things that I'm throwing out, all related to respect. And lo and behold, he started offering some things. We sat there for 45 minutes. At the end of 45 minutes, Peter, not I, stuck his hand across the table and said, I think we have an agreement. They got a 3% raise. And they got 3% every year for 3 years. That wasn't bad, but it certainly wasn't 13%. We got to the interest. We got to the why. This is what I want. This is what I need instead of this is what I want. when we're in these types of situations, we have to get off of our position, and we have to encourage and invite other people to get off of their position. I don't recommend you do what I did by pissing them off. But it worked under that circumstance, believe it or not. There are some better ways of doing it. Now, on the next page 8, it talks about the difference. This is a little activity. I'm not going to put us through this. But think about the difference between the interest, the position, and how we have to move off of position.